So, moving out of this culture, let's go to part two. It's kind of the chicken and the egg. You've got to create this culture, but you can't create the culture without a leader. Everything is really based upon leadership, and there has to be a leader that starts this movement of this culture, and it has to be the top leader, a CEO or the head pastor or a general manager or a key leader in an organization. And I always say, as the leader goes, so goes the culture. This person must be passionate about the dream and the values they're presenting. They have to be passionate. They don't have to be hyped up or over the top, but they have to be passionate. They have to be the kind of person that really, when they're speaking, they're kind of on the balls of their feet leaning forward. I've got to tell you this story. Kay and I took off this last Sunday, and we saw this church. We thought, well, we'll go visit another little church over here in the Houston area. And as we drove around, we drove up to this church. It was really beautiful. It had a nice little pond out in front with a fountain, and a building was gorgeous. The building was, kind of metal roof building, white rock, what we call Austin stone. And I thought, that's really cool. It's kind of inviting. So we go in, and it's myself and Kay and my son Rob, and we sit down, and the music director comes up, and he says, "We're so great to have you guys here today. We're going to start today by singing Amazing Grace." My head starts dropping down. I'm going, this guy has no passion. He has no enthusiasm. And I look at Rob, and Rob's always off the chain. He's worse than I am. I look at Kay, and we're not judgmental, but I'm thinking, this better pick up if you're going to keep me away. And then here came the pastor. This pastor gets up. He's a young man. I mean, he looks pretty sharp, and he gets up, and he says, "Today we're going to read from Philippians." And I'm thinking, man, no wonder the church is so small. They don't need to really expand because the person really is not showing any enthusiasm for what he believes. Enthusiasm is key. Enthusiasm among the core leadership team is what keeps a movement alive. They become what I call the thermostat. They set the temperature of the organization. Always have, always will. So let's kick off. Number two, so number one being culture, number two is leadership. Now you can go, oh my goodness gracious, you can go to bookstores, Barnes Nobles, a lot of them aren't there today, but when you go in, you'll see title after title after title after title on leadership. If you go to Google, you can Google right now, I think the word leadership, and you'll get at least 150 million hits on that word. You go to Amazon, you can just page after page after page of books on leadership. Quotes, they're all over the place. They are simply all over the place. I love a couple of them. First one is General Powell. He gave a definition of leadership that goes something like, leadership is solving problems. The day that people no longer see you solving problems is the day they no longer see you as a leader, or they feel that you just don't care. Got to think about that one. But here's the one I want to set up for today as we move forward on building a leadership team. General Patton said it this way. He was ready to go into battle. He brought all of his tank commanders together. He had them stand up and say, "Give me a definition of leadership." They all stood up, and he said, "No, that's not right," and made them sit down. And then here's what he said before he went out and jumped in his tank for the mission. He said, "A great leader must be one that can be shot and killed, but never miss." A great leader must be able to be shot and killed, but never miss. You see, folks, the key to an organization being perpetual is how many leaders can develop leaders. Not how many leaders, but how many leaders have the capacity to develop other leaders. I've been blessed to have had three major organizations in excess of over 1 million associates, almost 1.5 million associates combined over my 42 years. In addition, I've created multiple private companies. I've worked with the Fortune 100 companies. I've had the opportunity to work with Coca-Cola, Humana, all the way to the U.S. Army. And I have spent my life, my last 42 years as I've worked hard, looking at what it takes to create a dynamic organization in perpetuity. And it always comes back to the development of key leaders. Who can create key leaders? Who can be shot, killed, but the organization goes on? The key to ongoing success is keeping the leadership not only on the same page, but collaborating for the overall success of a mission. Drawing on my personal experiences, I look back, my goodness, to a time when a group of dedicated leaders, men and women, we got together in the early 70s, and we started working on a movement that got bigger and bigger and bigger, where we were out teaching people how to build businesses, to the point that we were filling coliseums, we were filling arenas, I mean, all over the world. I mean, the thing just kept growing, 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 and it's still growing today, which also tells you that evidently whatever took place during that period of time, we set in motion, it's still in motion today, perpetuity. What were the keys? What are the keys that keep a movement alive? What are the keys that keep an organization moving year after year, generation after generation? I guess being 42 years in this industry and in an industry of developing people, I pretty well have a good handle on this. I don't have all the answers, but I know what it takes in order to develop a dynamic organization. Number one, all of the leaders came from the understanding on that team that we developed that they were servants first. It was leadership with servitude. How to continually to improve those that were joining us. That was our key mission. It wasn't about finances. It wasn't about a promotion or a rank or what. It was about how can we serve other people. Number two, that group stayed together based upon loyalty. We were loyal to one another. I mean, we protected each other's back. We were loyal to the mission of the movement that we were creating. Also supporting one another, both in good times and bad times, because what I found in life, there's going to be times when things are going well, and there's going to be times when things are going bad, and we saw it all during that period of time. But we fought together to keep it together as a team, and we really enjoyed one another. We were so loyal to one another that when people would get around us, they wanted to be a part of us. They wanted to be a part of people that were that loyal to one another. Now here's number three to this. Loyalty automatically creates unity. See, there's no movement that's going to happen unless the people are united. The longer you can maintain and grow unity, the longer the organization will sustain. Over my lifetime, and I think really if you even go back to history and you look at many nations, most of them were destroyed not from the inside out, or not from the outside in, but from the inside out. The erosion came with its key leaders internally. Now, what I viewed over my 42 years working with leaders, whether it be in a church, whether it be in a corporation, whether it be in an organization, or here's some of the erosion that we would see. See, here's what happens, and it's so terrible, but it's something we have to address. One, it's jealousy. What will happen, people will start moving up in the business, in the corporation, in the management or in leadership positions, and they become jealous of one another. Now, these are men and women that started as good friends, but now there's a jealousy. There's an envy almost of one another. That becomes part of that little erosion. People believing sometimes that the only reason that movement is moving is because of them. That without their success, the movement would be dead. In other words, this personal pride sets in. I want you to write this down if you would. I want you to remember this. Here's what I found out, the higher you get, you ready? The higher you get into the echelon of this thing called success in the world, the easier it is to fade into preoccupation, that sneaky little thing called self-pride. Never allow your pride to get ahead of your common sense as a leader. So the key is, can you develop leaders? Are you keeping that leadership team tight? Are you making sure there's no erosion coming in? Are you all on the same page, the same voice, the same direction? And if you are, you can perpetuate yourself for eternity almost, okay? I want to close with a little Goshen quote if I can. Guys, as leaders, we have to look at it this way. We can only grow dreams by growing people. And you can only grow people by growing their dreams. That is the responsibility of successful leadership.